Duergar. Welcome back to Heroes and Whiskey. We are 3D printing our way through the D&D Monster Manual, and today we have the grim and industrious dwarves of the Underdark, the Duergar. Now, with the Azer, which was one of our first prints in this Duergar, I don't know why you couldn't just pick a dwarf that you like, or make one on Hero Forge. You're probably inclined to encounter many Duergars all at once, and so a multi-pack would certainly come in handy, but I want to be true to the creators who actually set out to make a Duergar, so let's go out to my mini factory and see what we can find. So I started with this pack from Cripple God Foundry. I love the way they look. There's a lot of detail. They're in action poses, which is what I really like, and so I bought this, I downloaded it, and went to print it, and discovered that it's one of those sets where like the heads and the hands and the shields and everything are all different pieces. And I honestly didn't want to be bothered with trying to figure out which head goes with which piece, and so I set out to find a couple of other options. There's this 4-pack from Musashi Kojin for $6. That's just $1.50 per Duergar. There's this Magnus Duergar Artificer from Comet Lord Miniatures. $5 is a little much for a single figure. It looks like it's got a little more heroic cartoonish proportions, but probably once you print it at actual size, it looks fine. There's this one from Flesh of Gods, the Duergar Arsonist. So if you need a Duergar to set fires for you, there's this guy. As I was thinking about it, like I said earlier, if you are going to have Duergars in your campaign, you're probably going to want a lot of them. And so if I was creating a campaign that had Duergars, I would probably make the investment and buy a whole set. You don't necessarily need this one from Titan Forge Miniatures because it's $60. But it does look like it comes with, 15 or 20 different figures, which is definitely worth the price if you want a little bit of variety. And usually these packs come with things like this dragon and that looks like one of the ornithopters from Dune. So I ended up with this guy, Nardrul, the Duergar dwarf. Say that 10 times fast. From Flesh of Gods, $5 is a little much for a single figure of this size, but I really like the way he looks, and so let's get him in the printer and see how he turns out. So of course Duergars live and work in the Underdark. They see themselves as the paragon of dwarvish ideals. They're very proud, but also greedy, cynical, and rarely emotional. I love this line from the manual where, after painting a pretty meager picture of their existence, the manual says that Duergars are bereft of warmth or artistry. So I could see an Underdark portion of a campaign where success or failure maybe depends on the party's ability to get a community of Duergar to give up an artifact or something like that. Someone makes a bad roll and suddenly you have all of Moria hunting you down in the darkness. So I do really like how he turned out. There's a good amount of detail given how small he is. I'm not sure if you can quite tell, but all of his armor has kind of a hammered metal texture to it that's definitely fitting for a Duergar. There's not really a whole lot to say about how it actually printed. The detail obviously held up. There is this strange hole on his forehead, and I really don't know where that came from as I printed him on his back, but maybe I could have done a little bit better job painting there. In terms of size, he's coming in at just about 5 feet, maybe a little bit taller because of how thin his base is. In terms of resources, he costs us $5, which, as I've said, is a bit much for a single medium figure. And as I said earlier, if you're needing more than one, and you probably would in this case, I would consider getting a bigger set. But we only printed one of him alongside our Drows and Dryads, and so we're sitting at $781 and still at 36 days and 6 hours. So if you need a single Duergar, this one from Flesh of Gods looks great. If you need more than one, you can find a good multi-pack in my mini factory or just make your own at Hero Forge. Next up, we've got the first of the purest living forms of the basic elements, the Air Elemental.